Hey guys, so I have a few more minutes. I was sent ahead to order dinner, which I frequently do because Kaya will not sit down unless there's food on the table, and Billy and I have to take shifts kind of chasing her around the restaurant. So what we've done is kind of mom goes as a scout, orders the food. I start eating if the food comes early so that when Billy arrives with Kaya, he can sit and eat and relax, and I can kind of help her eat and then help her run around. So anyway, I'm here. I have a few more minutes to myself. I wanted to do a video on international family travel, which I guess I would consider myself an expert because I did it extensively with my family because I'm a dual citizen, so I'm constantly going from the U.S. to the U.K., but more so because my father was a salesman, we had to travel worldwide, and I spent most of my youth, 18 years, going to France. So I consider France home, as I've said in other videos, because that's where most of my friends are. That's where I ended up finishing up my studies. That's where my house was, that I spent a good deal of time. I was at boarding school when I was in the States, so it wasn't a home for me, obviously. And the town that the boarding school was in was, like, almost a ghost town. It's scary. My husband went there with me, and he was literally awestruck at how deserted and scary it was. If you've ever seen Erie, Indiana, that's kind of like how this town was. Anyway, so, I've traveled. I'm on my 6th passport now. So I've traveled extensively. My mom almost gave birth to me when she was in Switzerland, that would have been cool. I keep heckling her for that. I was like, did you really have to wait? Couldn't you that would have been so cool. But no, it's all right. Anyway, so now obviously we're doing that with our daughter. We've flown from LA to Korea, from Korea to Phuket, from Phuket to Italy, driven all over Italy. Anyway, now my mind is going because I haven't slept well. So anyway, the common sense things for traveling, I'm going to reiterate. You probably know them, but I'm just going to add a few points that I've noticed. If you're traveling with young children, that's something I'm experiencing now. And then I can give you my perspective as a child who traveled frequently, and what I did when I was a little older, because obviously I don't remember when I was a toddler. Anyhow, when you're traveling internationally with a toddler, and you're flying and you have a long, long flight, the key is to get a red eye. That's pretty obvious, I know. But so that the hope is that your child will sleep during the flight. Eventually they will conk out, especially if you run around with them in the airport and run around with them before you got there. Chances are they're going to be very excited to get on the plane, so there is a small chance, that they will stay up. But you can get some great stuff like Rescue Remedy. They have these pasties that are kind of like chewable. You could always break one and give one to your toddler if you break it into a small piece that they are able to chew. There are also tons and tons of natural herbal supplements that you can give a child to kind of relax on a plane if they're really, so excited to be traveling. I've had excellent luck with my daughter. She first was on a plane when she was 3 months, and then she was on a plane again, 18 months. That was the international flight, and I was scared to death, okay? So just because I've flown a lot does not mean I get on a plane and I'm like, oh, I've got it under control. I'm a complete nervous wreck. I'm horrible to travel with now. I used to be fantastic. Now I'm terrible because I'm constantly in tune with her and trying to, hyper, handle the situation and prevent tantrums. So I think a really big key is to keep yourself calm. That's number one. Just do affirmations that you're going to have a calm trip. Talk with your child. Constantly distract them if they're kind of getting agitated. Nursing helps a lot. If you're still nursing your toddler, which I am still, that helps because they'll fall asleep and feel calm. So also, the number one thing I recommend not doing is to not give in to their requests for junk food. That's mainly because it will backfire on you. Maybe for a minute, they're happy, but it's going to completely get them wired, which is obvious. The sugar, all the stuff that's in there. Don't give them soda. That stuff's junk to begin with, but on a plane or something that's ultra trouble waiting to happen. You give it to a child. I've seen kids drink soda or eat some, really hyper fructose candy crap, and they just are insane, and the parents kind of wonder why, and it's like, well, it's not her fault. You can't give her that, I'm not trying to blame the parents. I'm trying to blame the marketing, actually, because it's very, it's okay. You can give your child this, and it's marketing directly to the kid, but don't give in to them, especially on a plane. Find something that's a happy medium, something that doesn't have too many artificial ingredients in it, some homemade cookies. For example, when we drove from Phuket to Ranong, which is a 4.5-hour drive, we stopped at a 7-Eleven and got her some kind of chocolate wafers. I don't know what the exact word would be for them, but the ingredients, there's nothing artificial. And then we got some coconut taffy. It was homemade by somebody in Ranong, or near Ranong, and it worked out perfectly because she was calm, And then when they get at their wits' end, for example, you've gotten off the plane, you're going through customs. That, in my personal experience, is kind of the hardest part. You've gotten off the plane, and if they haven't, slept too well, then you've got to deal with customs, and the kid wants to run around and just, use up their energy. Or if they haven't slept, they're a little grumpy. So what you want to do is you just, again, keep them calm. What I recommend ahead of time is checking out the airport you're flying into. What is the customs like there? Google it. Does it have a big customs area? Because some, have bigger areas than others. Phuket has a really huge customs area. So what I did was, when we had this long journey, from Munich, which she did fantastic. She slept the entire flight. I was completely taken aback. I was having a panic attack on the airplane because I have anxiety and just, I didn't know if I was going to be able to handle it well. She did fantastic. She slept the entire flight. There was one huge tantrum, and my heart started going, but completely out the entire flight after that. And in fact, I had people say how well she did, and I felt so proud of her and proud of myself for not completely losing it. But, and even if your kid loses it, I've heard stories, you just have to get an attitude of, I don't care what the other people think. That's the number one problem, is us kind of, not wanting to, we want to always kind of be the best parent we can, and we always want to project that image onto society that we've got it all figured out, but none of us have it figured out. That's just reality. And no one has it figured out when it comes to flying. You just take the advice that works for you and leave the rest. But don't listen to anyone if they give you any kind of criticism. Just ignore it completely. You want to find the airports that are best to fly into, big area to run around, kid-friendly rooms, like areas, play areas, nursing rooms. You want as few connections as possible. That's obvious, because then, it's kind of just easier all around. But sometimes maybe you do want to break it up, because, if you're doing like a 4-hour flight and like a 2-hour flight, or a 6-hour flight and then like a 4-hour flight or something like that, maybe you do want to break it up, because maybe they'll nap during one of them, and then the other, you can, whatever. So you want to kind of get them to run around a little bit in between. And the other thing is constantly talk about a journey before it happens, so that the child doesn't look at it as punishment, kind of sitting in this tight seat. Look at this as this big adventure, and put your imagination to use, and really get into it with them, like your Dora the Explorer, something like that. It's this big journey. When we were flying from Munich to Phuket, we first had to take a night train from Cortona, or from Florence to Munich. And because it was packed, we had people banging on our door too. And she was whispering. It was unbelievable that people were that anal. But, again, you have to not care, because it's just, it's not a child-friendly world we live in, so you have to completely not care. Anyway, so, I was completely worried about it. But what we had done before, weeks and weeks before, was I'd talk to her every night about, do you want to hear about our trip to Phuket? And she would always say, okay. And, we would talk about what we were doing. So then when it happened, she was so calm, because she knew she was embarking upon this adventure. We had talked about it. It's exploration. I was excited about it when I was talking about it with her. So she was in turn excited about it. And I told her we were going to the pool, because we stayed overnight at a hotel when we arrived in Phuket. And we did as well when we were in Munich. So again, it's just incorporating all these kind of elements. And again, the number one I would say is to stay as calm as possible. And yes, you're going to need distractions if you have an iPad, whatever. Obviously do what you have to do, but keep calm as number one. I'll do more videos in the future on this, okay?